Greetings, programs. Welcome back to Crusader Kings 2. Before I hit unpause, I am going to blather a bit first because at the end of the last episode, I asked you guys and gals for various ideas. See if you could come up with anything that I maybe hadn't thought of in terms of long-term goals. I've got medium-term goals, you know, taking over England, Wales, and forming the imperial title of Britannia, which probably won't remain Britannia. I'll probably call it something else. But that's my kind of short to medium term goal. But long term, well, I have less ideas. But, you know, it worked. Asking you guys and gals actually did give me one or two notions. Now, there were some suggestions of, well, attack Aquitaine, which is going to be huge. So we're not going to do that. That's a very, very long term goal, if at all. Other people suggested attacking the Holy Roman Empire, that one. Maybe, but again, I mean, there were specific suggestions of actually establishing myself in the Low Countries. But again, there's a serious size mismatch at the moment, and even as a long-term goal, it's very difficult to make those kind of evasions across water. I've actually had a different notion, and it's partially inspired by comments from some people. There's one or two people that say, attack Greenland, attack Denmark, attack Norway. How about I go for all of them? Now, you may or may not have heard of a certain Danish king called Knut, or possibly Canute. That might be a name that's more familiar to you. But between 1016 and 1035, he basically ruled Denmark, Norway, and England, and it's collectively called the North Sea Empire. And I've actually got a notion to try and recreate that, to try and take Norway's holdings, to try and take Denmark, maybe even push further out into the Baltic, because that's all. There's no strong Baltic country right now. Denmark is pretty much it. So if I could, as an emperor, have Denmark and Norway under my sway, I could then take the Swedish territories, the Finnish territories, push down round into Lithuania, Estonia. I could establish a really kind of strong northern presence and maybe then use that as a base to attack the HRE. So that's something that will be in mind for the future. And in terms of which of these ones I'll take first, probably Norway, because it'll be easier to take their islands and then try and hop onto the mainland Norway. But I don't know. I have no idea how it will work out, but we'll see. I've also, and this is, I mean, before I start recording, I have a little poke around to see if there's anything interesting that's popped up. I've also noticed that my plans, my dreams of a Welsh inheritance they've been scuppered, basically. The Count of Tyrconnell, who is my nephew, has managed to lose the ducal title through civil war, I'm guessing, and it's now held by this guy, King Morien of the house, that thing, and his heir is actually of the same dynasty, but the king of the Duke, well, Petty King of Gwynedd. So Wales is going to unify, and it's going to have parts of Ireland, and the parts of Ireland I can easily take back, but it means my short-term plans for getting a foothold in Wales are, they're kind of put on hold, because I am actually going to need to fabricate claims, basically. So I might go to war against these guys at some point to take back these provinces. But otherwise, that kind of puts the kibosh on Wales for the moment. The other thing that's happened that I've noticed is this guy lost the throne of, the Bohemian Greek Dukas guy that was the King of Poland. Again, I'm guessing a civil war. He has lost the throne, so Poland's now held by this guy over here. So I'm probably going to attack at some point and take back Tyrone as well. So short-term plans, are get Durham, get a claim on Durham, and then use my claim on Northumberland and take all three and have that entire duchy under my control. And maybe at some point during this episode we will tackle Ireland as well, because Ormond still needs to be taken under my wing. They have got allies, but nothing too much to worry about. Ossory, as we know, was... I so nearly had Ossory in the last episode, and then Aquitaine happened. So, yes. And then, of course, these two are both under the sway of the different current Welsh dukes. So, yeah, I'm thinking England and Ireland is, again, going to be the focus of this episode, but it's all about consolidation, this game. If you're dreaming big, then you have to just build up your power base. And because I started off with a relatively weak nation in CK2 terms, it takes that a bit longer to get there. But there are some crazy... I don't so much watch video Let's Plays of this game, but I've read some really long text Let's Plays. And there's actually a whole subsection of the Paradox forums. And some of them are fairly legendary. There's one for EU4 where somebody started off as, I think it was the Iroquois. It was one of the Native American nations. And got damn close to conquering the entire world. And it was as crazy as it sounds. And they didn't cheat and they didn't use mods. They did it entirely legitimately. And it was bonkers. So, yeah, those are worth reading if you really like these games. You can find some very, very entertaining ones indeed. But for now, yeah, we'll skip ahead a bit. I'll probably build some infrastructure in the meantime. Maybe see if I can build some more retinue, something like that. So, yeah, and also hopefully... this looks like, what is this? There's disease running rampant at the moment, consumption. So hopefully nobody important gets killed off by consumption. But you never know in this game, they might. So yeah, I shall see you in just a moment. Well, I've come back in because the truce with Ormond has expired, so we're going to declare war on them very shortly. But in an interesting development, England and Aquitaine are actually at war right now. Aquitaine is attacking over a claim on Navarra, and I'm not quite sure how England has been dragged into that, but they have. So that is very interesting indeed. The other thing that I can do, which I will do right now, which will take up most of my remaining cash, is to usurp, where are we? The Duchy of Meath. Which I can't do because I have enough cash, but I need Kildare. Okay, never mind. So I won't do that. Never mind, moving swiftly on. So Ormond has got as an ally Countess of Derby. We don't really need to... or is it Derby? I never know. It's one of these ones where it looks like Derby, but it's probably Derby because... English! Yes, it's not at all a confusing language. So his only ally is her, and as she's the vassal of somebody else... That isn't really going to be a problem, so we can actually just declare war, and I could do it as de jure claim from the crown, or I could do it as a de jure claim from the duchy, and he's only got one province, so I'll actually do it as a de jure claim from the duchy, so it'll go directly to him, and I won't have to mess around with assigning titles. So, short claim on Ormond. We'll march the troops in there, and he's got a reasonable number, but my troops are... This is my retinue. I did actually have enough for another skirmish retinue, so that was an extra 500 men. Not fully reinforced yet, but we're marching in against an enemy that hadn't had... They've literally just been raised. They didn't have time to actually get full morale, so that is a major advantage, even though I am... oh, we've killed the Earl. So, that's going to be somebody completely different, I think. No, same dynasty, but that's his son. And if he dies, and she dies, she's got a son of different dynasty. So, yeah, no, we'll take it. So we beat them fairly easily. That's not really going to be an issue too much. Although... there's consumption. That's why the troop numbers are suffering a bit. So we lost a few in the fight, and then we're losing more than normal to consumption. So that's going to cost me a bit more in terms of upkeep, because I am... retinues always cost you more to reinforce, but once they're fully reinforced, they are... all the cost disappears, basically. Oh, okay, a plot... where the Count of Desmond is going to fabricate a claim on the Duchy of Munster. Well, I don't think that's really an issue, especially as Ki Adimundi, who's actually the current heir apparent, if I give him an extra bit of land to work with, he should be easily able to defend himself against his vassal of Desmond. So, yes. The other thing I'm thinking of doing, I probably said this in the last, is getting rid of Oriel. Once I've recovered Ulster, I think I will shuffle Ulster off as a separate duchy and then have Meath as a privately, personally held duchy, because that will be worth more to me in terms of money. Just from Dublin alone, Dublin's got more capacity for... Like, I could build an extra city in Dublin, and that would be... that would end up being quite a rich province indeed. Whereas Oriel, I've got no... there's no way of expanding that. So it's getting me a decent number of troops at the moment. This is, where is it, Clunes? Just under 1,000 troops. Cash is not bad for a castle. But yeah, it's a bit... you'll do a lot of this. Like, it's hard to get attached to... You might have a home duchy, like I've got the Western Isles as my home duchy, but you'll do a lot of land swapping in this game. You don't really want to get particularly overly attached to any one particular bit of land, because you are going to, like, just the fact that different characters have different capabilities in terms of how much land they can personally hold means that you're going to end up doing a lot of juggling and trying to, you'll give bits of land to people that will result in you inheriting them later on, kind of thing. And so yeah, it's a bit there's a lot of that kind of juggling going on, and I've actually seen people that have had games where they've been unable to create an empire, and they because they don't have the right number of titles or not enough cash or whatever, so they give a kingship to somebody that they know that they will then inherit from later on. So you can be very sneaky with these kind of things. So Waterford is nephew Rees. Now, well, he's one of the Norwegian ones. We'll say I'll mention a church career. Actually, there's an interesting mix right now. Here's another thing that's popped up. My first fake Scottish cultural province has actually been... I'm guessing it was through an event for this character, Duchess Maud. And it's funny, because her heirs are all going to be proper Scottish. So it might flip back to being Scottish. It won't flip back to being Scottish, actually, will it? Because it would have been Irish to begin with. But never mind, it will flip again. And Dublin's still Norwegian. Caithness is still Norwegian. We've still got Irish cultural provinces. We've got some Scottish ones. So and Cumberland is Anglo-Saxon. So there's a real cultural mix going on in here. But as time goes along, cultures will tend to shift towards whatever the dominant culture in the realm is. But the chances of the event firing off that actually switches a province culture is actually a pretty small one. But they do spread, like the original CK2, there was a map that you could look up where it was based on trade lanes. Culture would flow along trade lanes. But it meant that the chances of provinces flipping culture, like you'd have various links going across the Mediterranean or wherever, but the chances of provinces flipping culture was very, very small, and you had to have very specific provinces in order to spread culture from, say, here to here. So spreading different cultures around in the original Crusader Kings was a lot harder than it is in CK2. And actually, if you start off in the like the Charlemagne start date, if you start off as a tribal leader, you can deliberately there's an option with one of your councillors where you can settle your own people to try and deliberately change the culture of a province. But once you feudalise, or once you become a trading republic, you can't do that anymore. So it's one of the few advantages of being a tribal culture. Although there are others, they tend to be very poor, but they can raise larger armies for their kind of level of infrastructure than regular feudal person would be able to. So, also, I've fulfilled an ambition to amass wealth, which gave me an extra stewardship, so that's very nice. So, we actually have 100% war score. We can end this right now. Enforce demands. There we go. So, he actually might just become a vassal rather than losing his lands, but never mind. Close enough. So, next up, come on, Chancellor. Come on, you can do it. Durham, we need Durham. I also need my king not to die. He's 40 now. He's slightly starting to get long in the tooth. But if I'm lucky, I might get another decade out of him. Yeah, I'm thinking, like, I was tempted to leave Tyrone alone when it was the seat of the King of Poland. But at this point, I might as well take it. Although we will just check Poland's alliances. Are you allied with anybody that would cause me problems? I don't think so. They'd all have a very long way to get here. Although the Emperor of Carpathia might be, you know... Carpathia is still doing well. They've actually created 2 vassal kings, Croatia and Hungary. And actually, come to think of it, Byzantium seems to have created a vassal king as well. Like, you don't tend to see that many vassal kings in empires generally. Like, there's only one in the entire HRE, and most of the kingly titles are held by the Emperor. Although... having said that, no, they aren't. Maybe they just haven't been created at all, which is interesting. You'd think you would at least have King of Italy, but apparently not. Anyway, yes, wait. Attacking Poland. There we go. So it's currently at war with Silesia as well, so that works out for me. Declare war, claim Tyrone, and we might actually get the Ducasis back in the fold, as it were. Although I actually have. I've got a claim and a de jure claim. I think we'll press the claim, because that means I can then assign that province to whoever I like. And I've actually got a son that's unlanded at the moment, so I might well do that. So we'll claim Tyrone. And we'll attack Poland. And it should be, you know, like attacking France in the last one before it turned into Aquitaine. Like that... in theory, it should be fine. And it was fine attacking France. It's just then inheritances came along and messed everything up. As they can in this game. Because the claims that you make, the wars that you wage, they are all... it's all on that personal basis. It's character-to-character interaction rather than nation-to-nation interaction. So that's all the mechanics are kind of based around that kind of level of things in this game. And sometimes that can really catch you out, because you can have something perfectly planned and then a character dies and it just messes up everything because claims were on that, you know, based on that character or whatever. So yeah, which is why I really don't want Colin to die, because if Colin dies, I lose my claim on Northumberland and have to make it all over again, because that is not an inheritable claim. So we'll fast forward a little bit here maybe, and I don't think we're going to have too much trouble with this particular one, to be honest. Yeah, this is... it's not going to be a particularly difficult war unless the entire massed armies of Carpathia turn up on my doorstep. Lies do hurt people. Truth, I'm going to lose Deceitful, apparently, which might actually not be necessarily a good thing. Yeah, I'll gain Diplomacy, but I'm going to lose 3 Intrigue. And that's not going to hurt me that much, but having 14 intrigues pretty good. It means plots against me are less likely to succeed. But anyway, +2 diplomacy is good in that it helps me with my relations with vassals, but -3 intrigue, I would have rather maybe kept that. Let's see. Oh, that's just a message about my... I've got my marshal raising... You know, he's doing reinforcement things in... What's the actual thing called? Where are we? Train troops. There we go. So there are a couple of possible good or minus outcomes from that. So that just means that my reinforcement rate is going to go up for a certain period of time. A year, apparently. So that's quite nice. And also just the act of having your marshal in a province doing that raises the number of troops you can actually raise from that province anyway. So that's why I have quite so many troops. Obviously, I mean, there's so many interactions in this game. The fact that I have 21 marshal on my king, has a big factor in that as well. So, yes, let's unpause that. And resume the siege of Poland. And, oh yes, we had one child needing a guardian. So this is Skjalg. I don't even know how you say that, but he's one of the Norwegian characters. We've got Norwegian McJedis. I don't think we have any more Scottish McJedis anymore. I think Caption Guy took care of them. This is led by him. Okay. This probably will come to nothing, but we can always hope. Great King Colin II, I and a powerful group of loyalists have presented an ultimatum to the usurper King Caradog of Deheubarth, demanding your rule over Deheubarth. Wish us luck. So, they're about to have a civil war. Probably won't benefit me at all, but you never know. That's a new Pope Damasus IV. And Joan McJedi out of her hiding hole. Okay. Well, we'll probably just release her, and the rest of those relatively unimportant messages. So, yes, I got sidetracked here. Educate child. And we'll pick somebody with a good martial score, I think. Duke of Lothian. Well, he's got a good martial, but terrible at anything else. I'm not sure the rest of his traits are that great either. The Spy Master of Scotland. Let's go with him. He is actually Jewish, but it shouldn't affect... it might do, though. He might decide to turn Jewish. That would be interesting. So, that's just a dentistry message. Ranald has picked up a couple of votes, but he's ill. Because although the consumption seems to have largely cleared, we had a big wave of consumption. I actually deliberately kept Colin McJedi as my king, as a general in this army, and then deliberately had him sit in a place where the disease wasn't. Because if you have an army, or if you have a character go back to their court and there's disease in that province, then there's a chance they'll die. Or if you have them leading an army where there's disease in a province, there's a chance that they'll catch it and die. So, yeah, you have to be... that's just a bit of plot information. You have to be quite careful with those sorts of things. There was actually a period... there was one of the... sort of early-ish in the reign of Henry VIII... of England, obviously, there was an outbreak of a disease that's known only as the English sweat. And it's not really known to this day what the disease was, but it killed a bunch of people. And he actually ended up running away to Yorkshire or somewhere like that, like Richmond. I'm not quite sure. But he basically abandoned London because everybody was dropping like flies. So, yeah, keeping your king out of the way of disease can be quite important sometimes, because there's every chance that they will catch it. Also, we've got rather a lot of cash right now. War score's only 16%, but hey, we're at war with Poland. So I'm just going to rely on the fact that I will take that, and then... I'm not quite sure. He might offer me terms or something. But, yeah, we'll see how it works out. So, actually, let's invest in Dublin. We can only build a keep... based on the technology level, so we'll do that, and we'll keep the rest of the cash for now. Also, we had a couple of prisoners, and we'll actually ransom them both, because that's just extra money we might as well have. So he's actually married to a McJedi. I'd forgotten that was the thing. It gets to the point, though, where you actually, like, there are enough McJedis around now, 21 living members of the dynasty. And especially with a tanistry, like if you have a direct line of succession, then it's easier to keep track of who's doing what. And you can actually, a nice feature of this game is I can set characters of interest. So I can say, my wife is a character of interest, and they will then pop up, and you can get a kind of a direct link to that character. But yeah, keeping track of who's doing what, it gets difficult as the dynasty gets larger. And so you end up with... basically, because people from other courts that are of your dynasty are getting married and they're going around to different places, you can end up with people popping up in very strange places indeed, and you'll look at somebody halfway across the map and realise that you're actually related to them somehow. So yes, it's interesting, because it's not unlike real life, where all the royal courts of Europe were constantly marrying people from other royal courts of Europe, and that's how we have half the royals of Europe being basically related to each other to this day. There is actually, going back all the way back to was it the Glorious Revolution? I can't remember. But there are to this day Stuart claimants to the throne, and they're not actually. It's some German count or duke or something like that. But he is technically the Stuart. He can claim descent to the Stuart kings of England, and Scotland, and he, in theory, has a claim on the British throne. In theory, in practice, it's never going to happen. A lot of people would have to die before that point. And apart from anything else, there have been several changes of dynasty since that point. But even so, it is just a bit silly that is the case. Anyway, one bishop is claiming he'd be better at being a bishop than another bishop. My current court bishop has a bishoping skill of 13. That's the thing, totally. He's got a bishoping skill of 14. Let's actually check that there are no other people that are even better than that. No, and he also desires to become the bishop, so actually that will pop up to 15, so we might as well take it. And that means that my learning will actually go a bit faster generally. He also has, I think the higher the learning skill of your bishop, the more chance they have of converting characters that are of different religions. So, so how's this civil war going? So we've actually... and it looks like Gwyneth is taking this opportunity to actually jump on board as well. So Wales might be unifying actually quite soon at this rate, but we'll see. So Wales is rather in turmoil at the moment. That is... looks like Aquitaine is... that war is over. But they've had a host turn up. And hosts are, it's a new queen apparently. Who was the previous? Patrick died at only 46. Nothing to do with me, this time. Queen Aelfwyn of House Caption Guy, whose heir is Cornwall, still stubbornly independent, but he's 71, so it's probably not going to be him. But there are enough members of, look at how many living members of House Caption Guy there are. Formerly, of course, I don't know if you remember that far back, but it was House Godwin way back in the day, and then Caption Guy stuck his foot in and stuck his foot in. That's a phrase, right? Yeah. So, but yeah, hosts are things that can happen. You can get adventurers that turn up, and it's supposed to be simulating. They are an actual named character from another court. It's not just a randomly generated thing, but it's supposed to simulate, for instance, William the Conqueror coming over from Normandy, or another historical example that I can't think of. That would be better if I could think of several, but obviously William the Conqueror is the most, the immediate one that jumps to my mind. But yes, although the game doesn't let you. There's actually this is. I know this is just a lot of me talking, but we're just waiting for this war score to climb up higher, because there's no way. I mean, I could try and get to Poland, but anyway. There's actually a lot of interesting history there, because if you... I don't even know where to start, but I've actually always thought it'd be a cool idea if you could have a set of events around the Doomsday Book, for one thing. But there's nothing like that in the game. You could maybe write some custom events, but it would be hard to... I don't know what you'd have for a kind of a Doomsday Book style set of events. Maybe you pay a certain amount of cash up front, and then it gives you increased income for the next 100 years or something like that. Or, I don't know, but I thought that would be a really cool set of events. And there are other sets of chronicles, those kind of surveys of the land that happened in Europe. But the Doomsday Book was kind of special in that it was the first, the big one that was there to try and assess the state of the nation. Whereas others previous to that had kind of a much more a limited scope. But the other interesting thing about... Oh, hello, you've just civil warred. That's Norfolk, it looks like, who is an Occitan character who somehow ended up being the Duke of Norfolk. When he came over, we'd think of it as being like the invasion of England and the the Normans, it was quite Normandy compared to England. England's quite a bit bigger, but actually England was not the most important part of that realm. It was only, at least for William the Conqueror, and it was only over time with his kind of descendants, the other one, that the focus shifted to England, and of course later on you had with the Angevins. They still had holdings in various parts of France, and then of course there's a lot of history there as well. It's like, I could just go on and on and on, but yeah. Anyway, so we need a guardian for Corran McJedi, who will educate them in the ways of something. Let's take her. That's my daughter-in-law, who is super capable. I'm so glad we got her in the court. Just even having a character like that around in terms of being able to train up other characters is very nice. So England's having a bit of a civil war and a host. And this is a war for England as well. This is a war for the crown. Oh, and apparently Cornwall's come back into the fold. Apparently... okay, that was an inheritance. The Duke of York inherited Cornwall. So that's where that came in. Let's have a quick look around Europe. The nightmare scenario hasn't happened yet, but as you can see... well, he's 37. He's starting to get on a bit. And she's 37 as well. So once they both pop their clogs... young Duke Lothair of Castile will become... Oh boy, yeah, I don't want to think about that especially. Otherwise, Byzantium's doing alright. We've got a lot of messages popping up in the background. Just mostly to do with... nothing important. Changes in laws, tanistry, voting things. So Byzantium's doing pretty well. Carpathia seems to be doing pretty well. Poland's actually making a bit of a comeback, despite my attacking them. Cumania seems to be also on the ascent once again as well, because this was all very scattered when I looked earlier, but apparently they've been doing things. So yeah, my spy master is 50 technology points. So this is kind of like a Jewish network event kind of thing, because there were sort of Jews all across Europe, kind of separate communities. I think that's actually really interesting that there are. I suppose it's a cultural thing as much as a religious thing, that despite having such a scattered presence, that it somehow was still a separate cohesive thing. Anyway, this war score's slowly going up, and I think that's because I have my actual my war goal, as it were. I think in this case it's because they're unable to fight back. They're unable to get troops over towards me. They might offer peace at some point, but I don't know. So let's unpause that. I have a boatload of gold once again. Money has really not been a problem with this particular playthrough. So, is that finished building? No, that's still building. Let's see if we can build anything in Ross or Moray. Oh, it happened. It happened. Okay, we'll do that in a second. Yes, no, okay then. Civil War, success! I now have the Duchy of Deheubarth, which means that's back in the fold, and I might give away Ulster sooner rather than later. That means that's a foothold in Wales. That is a massive, massive bonus. Great success. Okay, that's still the same dynasty as that, though. There might still be an inheritance possible between those two, but... yeah, no, that I was not expecting that to work. That hardly ever does, but my efforts in Wales have paid off. That's very nice indeed. Okay, so I think... Oh, and hello, that's even more civil war. Mercia's gone into that, so that's a big chunk of Western England right there. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I will divest at least one of my ducal titles. In fact, I think we'll give... Ulster to the Council of Tyrconnell, and we'll hold on to Deheubarth myself for the moment, and then once I've tidied up Wales, that won't be a thing I will especially want to hang on to myself. I do also want Meath for myself at some point, but that involves taking on Gwynedd. So let's do that just now. Let's create him. Correct landed title, Duchy of Ulster, and will that give him... No, that won't by default give him Oriel, or will it? He's not involved in an ongoing war. Why is he involved in an ongoing war? What's the... Is it because he's just been pulled into... Oh, maybe it's because I'm at war with Poland. That might be it. Oh, well. In which case, I think I'll just wrap up the episode here. That was actually a nice little event to wrap things up on. So, England, once again, civil war. I really need to work on my evil laugh. Caption Guy has a much better evil laugh than I do, I'm sure. But I now have a toehold in Wales. And that's great. And I've cleaned up Ireland a little bit, and I've actually managed to get another bit back through inheritance. Well, not even inheritance, through civil war. So yes, my meddling has been entirely successful. I'm going to count this as a very successful episode even. Esifode, I merely said. Esifode isn't a word. So yes, the North Sea Empire. That is my eventual goal. We're going to make this all blue or red, whatever the colour of Britannia will be. So yes, as always, let me know what you think. You can do so in the comments below. If you enjoyed the episode, you can hit the like button. You can subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And as always, stay tuned for more.